All right, welcome back to video 2 in the Rapid System Learning series of videos on how to play Adventure's Edge. So this one is going to be probably even shorter than the skill one. Here I'm going to talk about the second type of roll that you can do in the game, and that's attack rolls. So every character has 3 different attack skills or attacks. You have your strength attack, you have your dex attack, and you have your spell attack. So we'll jump over here to the front page of the character sheet. And you see down here below strength, we've got strength attack. Below dex, we have dex attack. And below intelligence, we have your spell attack. Your attacks are calculated by dividing your combat skill for your strength and dex attacks. But your combat ranks in half, rounded up, and then you add the corresponding stat. So Braun has, we scroll down here when we did our calculations, Braun has 6 ranks in combat. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then he has a 3 strength bonus, and that's how he gets a 6 strength attack. And then he's got a 3 plus 2 dex bonus, and that is how he gets his 5 dex attack. And then intelligence is half your spellcraft ranks, which Braun has none, but Braun probably has none. Let's go look. I retract that, as I say, because otherwise it'd be 0. Braun has 1. Okay, so 1 divided by 2, rounded up, is 1. So the game is forgiving that way. So 1 plus his intelligence bonus of 1 gives him a spell attack of 2. Okay, so the way attacks work in the game is whenever you go to make an attack with a weapon, you roll a d20, you add your corresponding attack bonus, and then you compare that to the appropriate defense bonus of your target. And the difference is how much damage you do, and the limit of that is based on the weapon. So this is actually pretty simple because there's no tables. You just have your weapon attributes. So let's just say Braun is faced off with a goblin, and he goes to attack. And I, as the GM, to save time and math, can say, all right, Braun, you see that goblin's moving pretty fast. He has a defense of 15. I just say it. It's just so much easier. So Braun will go over here. He'll be like, great, I'm going to go ahead and make a strength attack. I rolled a 7. I'm going to add my attack bonus of 6. I got a 13. Missed. Dang. All right. Well, then he could say, I'm going to go ahead and make another attack. All right. Now he rolled an 18. Great. 18 plus 6 is 23. Now Braun is hit. So all he has to do to determine his damage is say, what is the total minus the defense? We know the defense is 15. I rolled a 23. So 23 minus 15 is 8. So he could potentially have done 8 points of damage. And this is where the damage range kicks in on your weapon. So the easiest way to do this is everybody should have probably either little weapon cards or something handy so you know, without having to continually look it up, what your damage range and your damage specs are. So right here under the weapons at hand section on the front page, I've filled this in for Braun. So he's got a longsword. He's attacking with his longsword. We know he's got a +7 to attack with his longsword. So actually, I should have remembered that because he's better with his longsword. So this is where you probably should be looking at this. So this actually then be a 24. And then his longsword damage range is here. So the first part of the damage range, the only number that's important is that the high number is that whenever you're doing your subtraction, that's your cap. So he got a 24 minus 15, right? That's going to be math is hard, right? That'd be a 9. So he could do 9 points of damage. Now let's just say that goblin had a 10 dB and he rolled a 24. Well, the difference would be 14, right? Because you just do the simple math. He can't do 14 damage, 14 base damage with that longsword. So he would say, all right, I do max. Got an 11. Then if you have a bonus to that, some weapons have a bonus. This is not based on your strength. This is based either on the quality of the weapon or the type of the weapon. And this is always done after the math. So he would say, all right, great. If he was 11 over, he could do 11 plus 2. So 13 is like the maximum damage she can get on a non-critical hit. And that's pretty simple. So all attacks work the exact same way. Now, defenses do adjust based on what the target is doing. So everybody's got a base defense bonus, and then they have a parry, and they have a dodge, and then there's shields, right? So the defender can choose to do something to respond to the attack that might increase their defense against it. And that's going to be true for the characters. We'll cover that in combat. But the important thing is the GM should just, all right, roll your attack, their defense against your attack. Maybe they're going to parry. Maybe that goblin's going to parry. And now he's got a 17 defense against that attack. So then if Braun got a 21, now he's 5 over. So then 4 over. And that's how much damage he did. So that's pretty much it. Now, you do get some other attributes from the attack, because weapons can do both stun and bleeding if the attacks do at least 5 points of damage. So we're going to scroll down here. Braun's longsword. Here I have a S/. These are the 2 damage types you can do. Each damage type can inflict different types of primary effects. So if you are doing a piercing, for example, and you do 5 points of damage, that automatically does 1 point of bleed. And there is a little table for that. That actually just should be something you have notated next to your weapon, because some weapons are going to do bleed for the first 5 points of damage, and then they might do a stun for the second 5 points of damage. So if your attack total does any increment of 5 points of damage, what you would tell back to the GM, you say, all right, I hit for 7 damage and 1 bleed, or I hit for 12 damage and 1 bleed and 1 stun. And then I, as the GM, would just record that for that creature and make sure I keep track of how much stun and bleeding they have. That's pretty much it. So that's how you make an attack. And the spell attacks work exactly the same way, but I'm going to do spell attacks in a separate video, and we're going to pause this one because I'm trying to keep these short. All right, thanks.